From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of My Burbank Talks, presented by the staff of My Burbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hello, everybody. Craig Sherwood here once again with you, along with, of course, Ross Benson. And this week, Craig Durling is on assignment. Isn't that what they say in the news business? They're on assignment.
Right.
And before we start today, we just like to make Ross a little statement about the situation going on in the world right now. So, Ross, go ahead. What's on your mind about that?
Well, in the Middle East, it's just chaotic. And being of the faith that resides over there, Jewish, heavy on our hearts, every hurt. You see people killed unnecessarily and bombs blasting in the air and so forth. And you just wonder. But I will say that locally, our police department has been on top of it since it occurred. They have intelligence that they're listening to. There was a Jewish holiday on Saturday, and the police department made several, drove around all the synagogues in Burbank and had some cars at the synagogue, so they're on it. And we just pray for, it to be settled. And now, for the week that was.
The week
and,
that was.
And the week that will be.
Well, let's start off with last Monday on October 2nd. Providence St. Joseph's Medical Center lit up their Disney Cancer Center in pink, and they had a reception for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Ross, I think you stopped by the reception, and how was it?
I did. I shot a picture. It was right 7:30. They had a couple of speakers, survivors of cancer. A lot of people know the Disney Cancer Center, very, very popular. And it's, Buena Vista and Alameda. And the center itself, they did a little ceremony inside, listened to a couple of speakers. Then everybody went outside, and boom, they turned on some pink lights lighting up the building. Pink is cancer awareness. This is the second or third year they've had me come out and shoot it. And if you drive by and wonder why, that's their participation.
And that was Monday night. In fact, we're actually trying to set up a podcast up right now for with St. Joseph's to do a podcast about breast cancer awareness and with one of their doctors. So we're trying to work on that right now. Well, you went from Monday night and set that alarm clock and got up Tuesday morning and got over to the police department for the unveiling of their pink cruiser once again this year. So why don't you talk about that also?
Well, Burbank Police, I think they said this is the 6th year that they have wrapped a Ford Explorer in pink. And we're very fortunate in Burbank, company on Palm called Rapix Imaging. The owner, Adam Summer, is a Burbank resident, and he does this professionally, and he got a hold of the police department. And in the prior years, they've done a car and a motorcycle. I guess we don't have any spare motorcycles right now, but they've wrapped a car different colors. We give them the artistic, creative, whatever they want. And every year, and I'll tell you, I talked to Renee and the community resource area, Burbank PD. That car is scheduled to be everywhere in town. And this Saturday, our last Saturday, it was even at the Pack a Soldier box sitting there. Just so people are aware, Burbank Police, they're also selling the pink police patches.
Right, we saw the chief the other day, and he had one on.
All the command staff have them on. It's a choice of the officers, but quite a few officers.
The public can buy those too.
That's right. Do you have
the Burbank Police website or the foundation website?
No, I'm told you can buy them in the lobby.
Oh, go right to the lobby. Okay.
I believe in the lobby, and they're like $5. That money will be all donated to the Cancer City of Hope, and it's just more funds to help.
It's another small way of doing something. If we all do small things, the big picture, is helped.
Yep, exactly.
You don't have to give $1 million. We can just give that $5 here and there, and if we all do that, that becomes $1 million.
And it's kind of nice. I know my granddaughters love to have that pink patch in their room, and especially pink. That's my granddaughter's favorite color. But if you look on the uniform of our police officers that have the pink patch, they look really classy.
Absolutely, and it's good for the chief and the staff to acknowledge that every year.
And you're going to laugh. People go in front of the station and just pose in front of the car and shoot a picture with the car.
Sure.
So it's always there. If it's not being occupied or used out in the field, it's you can go by the station at 3rd and Orange Grove, and if it's parked there, you can shoot a picture of it right in front of the...
Just park legally.
Yeah, right. Well, that construction right now makes it real hard.
Yes, it does.
And that was a worry during the ceremony unveiling last week. They were working on the road, and the pile drivers or whatever that was working was making a lot of noise. So it was a little annoying. But now the car's there, and that's what happened last Tuesday, or at least in the morning of Tuesday.
Well, Tuesday night we had ourselves another council meeting. Something happened during oral communications, which it caught my eye, and I thought it was a real positive thing. That one of the speakers came up who's, I guess, being evicted and trying to get help from the city, and she had a little speech, and it was in Spanish. She's trying to read it, and one of the city staff members went up to the podium with her and basically translated for her. And the mayor, I thought, in a good gesture also, doubled the minutes from 3 to 6 because it would take time to translate, so it wouldn't be fair if she was cut off halfway through. So,
it was Vivian Garzon who ran for the city clerk position, who is Hispanic, and she got up very quick, and I thought it was a great gesture. We've never seen that where we've had an interpreter. I know at a council meeting a couple weeks ago, Nikki.
Yeah, we don't want people to think that just because they might be here illegally, they have rights too. And we're not judging them on how they got here or anything else. We're just saying, we respect your right to come speak. As a citizen of Burbank, and she did it. And you said, Nikki Perez, council member Nikki Perez, at the end even addressed her in Spanish, which I thought was nice. Also, I thought it's just nice that we were very inclusive, and she didn't feel like she was scared to talk to the authorities or something else, and it was speak her piece. So,
well, I just heard the other day somebody say that Los Angeles is a melting pot of how many different nationalities. But when you're getting evicted, I know that I know the feeling.
Right.
And she's probably Panic City. And then you try to say something in English.
Especially if your English is broken and you really can't. Or you can't understand when somebody's talking back to you in English that quickly. You can't process it. So
yeah, so
hopefully she got some help where she needed it. But I just thought our city was very accommodating. Never seen it happen before. Curious that if somebody with our Armenian, language came up, would they have somebody be able to translate for them also?
Well, I would think that we have some Armenians working, because like now when you call the police desk, they can hook you into an Armenian translation line.
And I would say this, and if you can understand what I'm saying, of course, but if you do speak a different language and you do want to go talk at a council meeting, let them know in advance. Hey, I'm going to be speaking. I need a translator in whatever language. I'm sure they're going to accommodate you.
Yeah, it's don't ever feel you can't.
Yeah.
Address the city.
You have the same rights as everybody else does.
Yep.
Well,
so what else did they talk about?
Well, the rest of the big thing that meeting was the lawsuit for the council districts, and as they say, what's that movie? Something strange happened on the way to the forum or something. They went from their typical, whatever the city staff, we're going to rubber stamp this, rubber stamp that, pass this, pass that. All of a sudden, some hard questions got asked. And Vice Mayor Nick Schultz kind of surprised me, but made me happy because he's asking the questions that we've been asking for months and months. Number one, is Nick Gutierrez, who's this lawsuit's filed on behalf, actually not, it's been the draft, we've seen the draft, and a letter was drafted in his name, but has Nick Gutierrez been involved in the process of, what, in other words, the council saying, okay, Nick Gutierrez, we understand you have a problem. What is the problem? How can we address it for you? Besides just, and they asked the city attorney that, has he been involved in the process at all? And he goes, no, nobody, not him or any of his representatives or the law firm has said anything since the letter. Nothing. He goes, and it's unusual because usually when somebody brings this action, they want to be part of the process that fixes the problem. Once again, I still think it's a shakedown.
And he's shaking down every city.
Because in the letter it says, just give us $30,000 and, make this go. We won't do anything.
We won't move further along.
And I'm trying to find out right now, and we're looking into Nick Gutierrez. Is he a registered voter in Burbank? We're trying to find that out. And if he is, has he voted in any election ever? Because I think, and if he says, well, I'm disenfranchised, so I don't vote. Yeah, you know what? That's kind of the old coward's way out. I just don't think, I don't think he exists. I really don't. I think if you read the letter and how it's worded, there's things that don't apply to Burbank. It's kind of a form letter they probably sent to every damn city.
Well, in fact, you're right. There, I believe you in one of your articles this week specified and said there was some wording in there. They even wonder if there's Burbank, if he knows Burbank. There were specific things in the letter. I forget the article off the top of my head, but the guy might not even be from Burbank. Is there a Nick Gutierrez?
Yeah, and in all honesty, we have looked him up. We have some software that we look up occasionally, and we pay for. And so far, they haven't found a Nick Gutierrez in Burbank in any of these databases. I'm trying to get a hold of the registrar in Norwalk to get more information. I can't believe why the city hasn't done this either. Why they haven't tried to look into if this person exists, because, if he doesn't, how is this a legal lawsuit then? If they're just making something up, if they're making that up, then.
Well, like you said, we have some things that in the back of our head we're thinking some people that could be. But if you're Nick Gutierrez, we'll buy you a steak dinner wherever you want in Burbank.
Step up and let's talk. And I also thought the vice mayor, he said, you know what? If we're going to do this, I want all the options brought back. Instead of 5 districts, how about 7 districts? How about 9 districts? What will that look like? What if we have 6 districts and we elect a mayor, or 4 districts and we have a full-time elected mayor? What if, so he brought back a lot. He says, I want to hear more options than just the 5 districts and that's it. And we just put it on, and let the charter committee, let them delve into this, let the voters decide on this. I'm all for it. When the Pickwick thing came up with SB 35, I knew that was a huge mistake to not approve that project, and I knew they were going to get sued, and I knew they were going to lose, and of course, they got sued. They lost, $500,000 because they voted with their hearts because the residents wanted that, and they didn't vote with their heads, and was done. But this issue, an issue that has worked in Burbank for 100 years, and now somebody wants to, one person, not a group, not an organization, one person wants to change how we've done things for 100 years when he can show no proof of it. And even with the districts, it'll show there's no advantage to any of the minorities who feel that they're not being represented. There's no way to do it. It's going to be the same thing.
Well, what gets me is...
I just think we're, especially look at Los Angeles. They have all these council districts there, right? How many LA council members keep getting indicted? Because people try to get to one member at a time. Where at city council, you got 5 people. And you know what? Every one of those 5 council members is my council member. If I have a district, that means I have one person. That's it. One person who represents me. Not a good thing either. I like all 5 representing me.
Well, what gets me is they have paid a pretty penny in the preparation. Every one of those signs.
$300,000 they've allocated so far.
Is
I
that
think.
what it is?
Yeah.
That's
The consultant and everything else.
see. That's what gets me. That is, to the city, that's chump change. You think, but come on, $300,000.
And these consultants couldn't even show up to the meeting. Oh, we'll do it on Zoom.
Right.
Holy cow! And thanks for taking our money and giving us so I just think I'm really happy that Vice Mayor Schultz went the course he did, and the council is going to have this all brought back to them. They didn't pass anything that night, any of the recommendations or the ordinances. So, to be continued, people. I just think sometimes there are fights worth fighting. I know Santa Monica has spent up to close to $6 million, and they don't have a decision yet. It keeps getting bounced around. So we'll see if, what happens. But I'm really, what confounds me also is that more citizens of Burbank aren't standing up for this or listening about this, or it's just not important. It's just, that's why we get, 15,000 out of 45,000 voting, because people just don't care. They don't want to vote, which I don't get that. But
Well, it's frustrating when they have made it as easy as they have. You don't even need to leave your house.
nope. Just like getting a credit card bill, just get it at home, fill it out, and put it in the mail.
That's right. They couldn't make it much simpler. And like the scary part is, that's where our elections are going, and you wonder how some of these decisions are being made because nobody votes.
Well, you said 1,000 times. The average Burbank citizen doesn't care about government. They don't care about. All they care about is my trash picked up on a certain day? Are my streets swept on a certain day? Do my lights go on when I flip the switch on? I mean, you said it time and time again. But you know what? The reason that stuff all works is because we have a city government that makes it work. So, you know what? Sometimes you need to know how the sausage is made.
That's a new one.
Well, that's new for this, but it's an old term.
Old term, but a new one on for our podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So that's it for the Tuesday.
Yeah, and then let's go into Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh, you know what though? Something
Well, it was farther along.
but there's also something on the Tuesday meeting that came up at the end, which I'm looking at my notes here, and I don't know where I put it.
Oh, it was buried quite a bit later.
Okay, so but this happened at the end of the meeting. They always have additional agenda items, and Councilmember Tamala Takahashi said, "What can we do to modify the oral comments?"
I think the word was manage.
Manage, yes. She wants something brought back on how to manage oral comments, because she said we are here sometimes too late at night because there's too many people commenting on too many things and everything else. You know what? What kind of slap in the face is that to the public? And I mean, it's just, I heard that and I said, well, okay, here, a couple things for you, Councilmember Takahashi. You wanted this job. You ran for this job. You knew what this job was. One of the things of this job is you listen to your constituents. I don't think, she realizes, and the council at times, which I have disagreed with, but I get it, they've always messed around with oral communications.
Well, that's the funny part. For years, I remember.
Years.
David Golonsky, I remember going back years,
Yeah.
George Batty.
Yeah.
Let's modify the time.
Yes.
Let's stop 2 oral communications, one before and one after.
They used to have 5 minutes before at the meeting before, and 2 minutes at the end of a meeting.
And
Mike Knoll never missed either one.
Oh, he didn't. He didn't. But it kind of gets you that, again, I get it. People right now, there's a lot going on in our community.
And the first set of oral communications, they can come up and talk about anything that's city business. It doesn't matter if it's on the agenda or not. They can talk about anything they want to talk about. It involves the city of Burbank. And, one night it's been a lot of people were evicted. Not on the agenda, but a lot of people came to talk about that. Another time it was the Burbank the center stage. Not on the agenda, but people came to talk about that. And in fact, that resulted in change. But that's people's rights to come talk, And to me, it's like, you know what? If you don't like going to 1:30 in the morning, but one of the reasons is you put so much on the agenda that by the time you get to everything, it's 1:30 in the morning. So if you don't be there at 1:30 in the morning, how about 3 meetings a month instead of 2 meetings a month? If you have an extra meeting a month, maybe you split that agenda up into smaller items, and all of a sudden you're out there at 9 or 10 o'clock at night then. But, if you're going to put like 4 or 5 items on an agenda, especially, reports and public comment and things like that, that need public comment and public hearings, well, that's what you're in for then, I mean, so I say have more meetings. They used to have a lot of meetings, but the charter says you have to have at least 2 meetings a month. And says, okay, we'll do the minimum then.
Well, we have a lot of stuff on the agenda.
We did have the meeting on Wednesday was a special meeting.
Right.
And I'm glad they called it. And so on Wednesday, they had a special meeting to figure out the Burbank Center Stage theater situation. I was very happy the council took this up. I was very happy it was done in a public setting. There was nothing but transparency. Yeah, it was a little long because each presentation was 45 minutes and it was the same questions and everything else. But it was interesting to listen to all the answers. And I thought, after listening to it, I go, wow, especially the first time was the YMCA. And basically what we're talking about here is the Colony Theater was told they had to do an RFP, which request for proposals, and
to renew their lease.
And renew their lease. And the way it was done by the Park and Rec staff and the city finance department was not very professional. And a lot of and our Lisa Paredes did a great series of articles showing the inadequacies and what was going on behind the scenes. And that's why the city council stepped in, because the process didn't seem fair and didn't seem transparent, and it was not a good situation. So they came and said, okay, we'll make the decision. You know what? And they should make that decision on every public facility that the public, they should have the same thing when it comes to the Bell Golf Course. I think they should have the same exact thing there, Our Park and Rec department, I think, is overtaxed. And they said one of the reasons that they couldn't get ahead of this years ago was there was an issue at the Bell, and the person who was doing the negotiations for the center's, the theater, well, they had to go run the DeBell situation instead. So we've got, 500 Park and Rec employees, and nobody could step in. Only that one person, and he had to go run DeBell for however time. And then when he got done doing it, and then he came back why wouldn't we have somebody else in charge of the theater? Why wouldn't we have separate people in charge of different things? One person in charge of the Starlight Bowl, one person in charge of DeBell, one charge of the center's, the theater.
Well, I watched that meeting from beginning to end, and negotiations aren't easy sometimes.
I don't know.
And
and these weren't negotiations; these were just proposals.
Right. And what I heard out of the 3 people that were vying for the agreement, you know how many contracts the city signs?
Oh, yeah.
You kind of wonder.
But these are public facilities that's used by the public,
right?
Yeah, I know. So is our street paving and things like that, But these are amenities that our public uses, and I think they should have, be able to hear the process. After the YMCA proposal, they let off and they were first. I'm going, wow, that's like a slick machine. They've covered every, but to me it wasn't. It sounded corporate to me. It didn't sound, as though it was personal. It sounded corporate. Colony Theater was second. I got to tell you, I was actually impressed with I thought their proposal might not be all that, they wouldn't have all the glitz and glitter, but they did a great job. They had, pictures and, cardboard.
They literally had red carpet on theirs.
Yes, they actually did. And they had the numbers, the figures, what they wanted to do. Had a great little video in the beginning and a great little video of some Hollywood A celebrities who were saying save the theater, for them. So I thought they did good. And then the last ones were the Greenhouse Arts and Media, which I think the man was very honorable. He did a great job. I thought he made a great, but not a Burbank person. And you talked about how he works with the LA school system and things like that. Well, we have the Burbank school system. He just sounded like he wanted a larger theater, and he'd just come to Burbank and use ours. And I thought he was I thought he was a very well-spoken man, but he's a lawyer by profession. So,
lawyer by profession. He knows how to
right.
present a case, and he presented it. I said to myself while he was presenting it, I hope the city council is hearing what he's saying, because he's not talking Burbank.
He's not talking local. In fact, I actually looked him up on IMDb during the meeting. He's been like in 5 things, and I've never heard any of the 5.
And one of the things that somebody said several times during the meeting, you got an empty IKEA store. Why don't we make that? People don't realize that land and that building is not made for the theater.
No.
That's
well, what that is being used right now. Right? They just started a new season of Hell's Kitchen again. So
right.
they put dorms in there, 2 kitchens, a dining room. That place is all set up, in Hollywood style.
Well, it was supposed to be torn down 2 years ago, and they're making some money using it.
At least they're renting it out. What does bother me a little is that they do have a facility called the Burbank Little Theater, and they're just not using it anymore or anything else. Now, to me, the Greenhouse Arts and Media, that would have been a perfect little spot for them, because they're a smaller place, and it would have been a better place for them. But nobody brought that up. In fact, right now the plans are to demolish that and build a large new gym at Olive or George Isaiah Park, and at the back of the gym put a community room in, and the theater people could use that room and everything. But that's not a theater. A room is not a theater.
Well, you can have theaters are in. You got Victory Theater that's across from.
But that's also a private theater.
Private theater. The church that I once went to at Hollywood Presbyterian has 2 theaters. These are like small 99-seat theaters. That was one thing about the Colony. It's pretty good size.
250 or so? Is that?
No, 156, I believe.
156, okay.
But you saw a lot of union people get up and speak for the Colony.
Because it's a professional theater, not an amateur.
And that was one of the problems that Nikki said. If we don't go with this, how many union jobs are we slicing away in this decision? I loved listening to what she had to say. But also, the theater, the Colony has been messed around with for many years. They have not been given a fair deal.
Not at all.
From day one. And, you cannot operate a business with a 6-month window, especially in the theater business.
Yeah, it takes months and months and months to put things together and set deals up. I think that, but on the other hand, I still like to see. Okay, let's say you're gonna tear down the Burbank Little Theater. Okay, I think if you're gonna try that entire project at George Isaiah Park, why not reconstruct a new little theater in there? And while they're at it, why not put an amphitheater type thing into the new Burbank Central Library project downtown that they're working on? Why not do a 2,000-seat little amphitheater in there that they could rent out to bands and everything else? And I if you look at Inglewood brings in. They are so happy to have the Rams there. They are so happy to have the Forum there, and now they're going to have the Clippers there too, in another arena. Because every time you buy a ticket to a Ram game or a Clipper game there, or anything else, a concert, anytime you buy a ticket, $1 or $2 of that money goes to the city of Inglewood. Like, we have a bed tax here. We have a bed tax, so every time you sleep in a Burbank hotel, you get money goes to the city of Burbank. Or you park in the airport parking structure, $1 goes to Burbank. Well, if we had a 2,000, 3,000 seat, in a new city center downtown, we'd be getting, every time events be held, we'd be getting $1 or $2 for each thing to A, cover the traffic and the police, and B, to go toward the city.
Well, I recall many years ago that there was a proposal or a drawing of an amphitheater right at 3rd and Orange Grove. That parking lot for City Hall was part of it. The shoe store and the restaurant across the street was all going to be bought and made into a small amphitheater, outdoor style.
Wasn't
and
there
so
one
forth.
time same plan for the where the 777 Front Street project is going in now? Didn't they at one time think about trying to do an arena there too? At one time, I mean,
Well, I remember when Bud Overham was city manager out on San Fernando Road, where I think it was SSP, one of the industrial companies out there. I've been out there, and there's like 5 parking lots, and there's a footprint, and it was away from residents. It was right off the 5 freeway, right on the 5 freeway, near the airport. Boom, boom, boom.
yeah.
And it should have gone out there, but that never happened. And you just wonder, in this downtown dream that they're going to come up with, will they ever do that?
Well, hopefully, okay, I get we need a new library, but we shouldn't be calling it. I think that the term library is antiquated. It should be a multimedia center because let's face it, a building full of books. While we still need to have books, I get all that. I'm not trying to say we should get rid of books, but is that the way our future is going? We're going digital? I don't mind having some books, but we need to have other forms there also. It should be a multimedia center, not a library. The library just sounds like, books.
Well, the bottom line, the council did deliberate. If anybody, we had a story on it. Lisa did a follow-up story. It was only 4 council members. Councilmember Vice Mayor Nick Schultz reclused himself because he had received a campaign donation from somebody, from a member of the colony. So he asked.
He didn't say which one. He just said a member of the.
He said the colony. So
okay.
He reclused himself on the suggestion of the city manager. So the
City
4
attorney.
of them, city attorney. So the 4 of them, after many hours of deliberation, it was, I believe, moved by council members Zezette Mullins, and then seconded that by Mayor Schultz or Mayor Constantine Anthony to move forward, and it was a 4-0 vote for the city to negotiate.
Yeah, they're still negotiating with the colony and in good faith. So and then the contract, when it has been negotiated, still has to come back to the council for approval.
And I think the wording, and I heard it pretty loud from them, is they want to see the YMCA work and colony work together for programs and other stuff to be done there. So hopefully they will help each other out.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to Thursday. They had a Burbank Unified School District meeting, and on the agenda was a report from John, I want to say Isom, ISOM, from Isom Advisors. And he addressed the board and said that he's worked with more than 200 school districts over the last 8 years, and he did a poll of 400% prospective Burbank voters for their perceptions to do a bond measure. In his report, he said it was conducted between September 22nd through the 26th. He said 80% of the voters surveyed believe that local voters need to do more to protect the quality of educational facilities in their local public schools. I agree. He said support for a bond measure before voter education was at 60.5%, while after information, the support was at 64.8%. Interesting. He said all projects tested received 60% voter support or above. And D, that there was some tax rate sensitivity to the highest tax rate tested, while support increased with the lower tax rate. Of course, that makes sense. Here's my 2 cents on it. I have no problem if we need to do a bond measure for the schools. That's fine. I am totally against it, however, unless 2 conditions are put in. Condition 1, that if this is voted for, every dollar of funding presently has to continue in the same categories it's funded in now. Because as people remember, when the lottery came around, the big selling point, why everybody voted on it was, wow, 60% or 20%, whatever percentage it was, would go to the schools and would help the schools financially and everything else. Everybody was behind that. And yes, whatever percentage is supposed to go to schools has been given to schools. But then our state legislators said, well, you know what? They're getting that money in now from the lottery. So we'll just take out that much money from what we were giving them before and use it somewhere else. So at the end of the day, the schools are still getting the same amount of money they got before. And, so I think to me that's a flip-flop sham type thing. So I have to have that in the proposal that says current funding levels will not be decreased in any facility as it is now. One. Number two, I just don't trust. It's a secret society there, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, during the council meeting the other night, one of the council members, I can't remember who, one of the council members said, has the school district taken up districting yet? And a staff member had to say, yes, in fact, they've already passed it. And the mayor, who has a son in the Burbank school, says, wow, I didn't even know that. The council didn't know that school district had already done districting because it's all done, we'll just do this. No releases ever went out to the press or the public. It was on our website. How many people go look at the school district website every day? How many people go to,
especially if you don't have a kid in schools?
Yeah. So, okay. So the school district, they've passed district elections. It's a done deal. But so my second thing is I will not once again support this in any way unless 5 members can be appointed to a special board to oversee every expense that the money raises, and the board that this is used cannot be appointed by the school board members. It has to be at the city council or some other body.
I don't know if it's city council.
Well, I don't know if they can do it, but there has to be some other board or some other body that would appoint the 5. Because you know what was tough? Okay, we'll have a board, an oversight board, and then they elect their 5 best hush hush people to give them whatever they want. To me, that once again, it's another flim flam thing. So don't decrease funding, and have a 5-member board appointed by an outside agency. I'm okay. If not, I will vigorously oppose it, because what's going to stop the district from saying, "Oh, we got more money now. Let's rip up all the administrative contracts again, like we did last year, and give everybody raises. Let's give our superintendent another huge raise." I'm sorry. They're just. I can't trust them with public money when it comes to administrative salaries and things like that. We're not spending it on the kids, but boy, it's nice that our superintendent now went from $175,000 to $300,000, which is $50,000 more than our last superintendent of 8 years got. How? It just. Anyhow, okay.
We're going to let Craig take a breath here for
my blood
1 second.
pressure needs to come down. Ross, give us your thoughts.
Let's turn the air on in the room, and you're sweating like you wouldn't believe it. I do agree. When you get funds like this, Burbank, when they did Proposition P, they came up with an oversight committee, and they came up with some, former city council members, some commission members that are sitting on it, and a couple of residents.
And the meetings are open.
Public. Yep.
And everything else. And there's no behind the scenes things going on.
So they should come up with this, and those meetings need to be made very public and what's going on. And I think because they do need the funds, that we get it, we understand that.
Oh, the teachers need them. The school, you got schools like Burroughs where they built a new school 15 years ago, and the school's falling apart. And that's another thing. If they're going to put money into facilities, they got to do a better job of how the construction is and everything else. I mean, Burroughs, I heard, was the gym area was falling apart within 5 years after construction. It's like when the city built the new police station. That started falling apart. They put the floor in upside down, or the windows in upside down, and the floor was on backwards. And
well, there were.
I mean,
they've had.
Holy
again,
cow.
the you go out to bid, and on the problem with the schools, they found that the person they hired to oversee everything was kind of getting some payoff from the contractors and so forth, and you go for the lowest bid, you're going to get the shabbiest work.
Yeah.
And it turns out that's what happened. Same with the police building. They're still dealing. We were there on Friday,
Yep.
and they're replacing the carpet, which,
I can see carpet wearing out, but I mean,
but the roof's leaking.
yep.
They're still leaking in the parking garage, I'm told. That building just was not built, so.
But it's funny, if you try to do things in your house, you have an inspector there every day saying this or that and everything else, and where was that inspector for those big projects? But that's a whole new subject.
But moving on.
Holy cow! Moving on. Okay. Moving to the weekend. The Burbank Sports Federation held its induction ceremony at Olive Rec next to the Bill Burden Field. Bill Burden, of course, is known as Jim Burden's father. Poor Bill Burden. We have a story coming with pictures about that by Rick Assad. You were there for the ceremony?
Yeah, it was real nice. They've done it many times. There are many people that have been inducted in the Burbank Walk of Fame. If you drive down Olive and look to the right there, you'll see it says Walk of Fame. And if you ever get out of your car, they have put in people's names, that have been inducted and so forth. Real nice ceremony for 2 people this year. I'm going to keep it as a secret so people read Rick's story. And they had, food, and they had all sorts of stuff. A nice little reception.
Well, we have our friend Dodger in here trying to find his ball.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, move that chair away from the wall so we can get to where his ball is. That dog is...
Wow.
Yeah, that dog wants his ball.
I'm going to go to that shot, and maybe people can see Dodger moving around over here. Just having a fit.
Dodger he wants that ball.
And then Rick and I went to
the
UME.
UME Credit Union, where Keller Williams held its
Pack a Soldier.
Pack a Soldier event. Is that called Pack a Soldier?
I think that's
Pack a box, isn't it? Or for soldiers, or well, anyhow, the community gets together and packs up boxes to send to soldiers to give them a piece of home.
Yeah, and it was the line. It was toasty. They said it was going to be 100 degrees.
And they didn't lie.
And at 10 o'clock, it was 95 degrees. I was out there schwitzing. And I'll tell you, when I schwitz, and I was wearing a hat too. But our council member, Nikki Perez, was there. She had to be in her sister's wedding. A couple hours later, I bet she was pretty toasty.
Oh, I can imagine.
But she stopped by. I saw that our council members, Zette Mullins, had stopped by. Jerry Gusso and Karen Volpe from, this is one of their pet projects. The line for packing boxes was great. They had tons of supplies. And like Barry said, it's harder and harder to get people to donate and companies to donate to put on the event.
Well, but still, it's an event we have to have. And, we'll have a story on the site soon.
We will. And the thing, if you think about it, our soldiers are overseas, away from home. You get a handwritten letter from a kid here in Burbank, or you get a deck of cards, or you get, some candy or some nuts. It's just the nicest thing.
Too bad we can't send him a Larry's cheeseburger. Too bad we can't.
Well, if we could ever figure that one out.
Yeah.
So they packed, 500 boxes. They filled a U-Haul truck up, and I'm looking down to make sure my tennis shoes are still on my foot and not being chewed on. It was really, and like I said, we cut out of there a couple hours in, and it was really hot. But I saw Barry later that night, and he said, "This community participation, and you got to thank UME Credit Union for lending them their parking lot. It's worked out great there." So that event went on, and then there was something else Saturday night.
Yeah, FSA, Family Service Agency, held its Imagine a City Gala at Nickelodeon Studios. And everybody who was somebody if they were somebody or they want to be somebody, they were there, according Ross also. So
Well, I did cover that event, and I was on the guest list to cover it. They honored Judy Wilkie, our assistant, and Dodger agrees.
Yes.
The purpose of FSA to raise funds so they do not have to charge clients for some of the services that they provide. It was a sold out event. I mean, there were still tickets available, but they do it right. The FSA and her team, Lori Bayek from FSA, and Chris Ramos, and the whole team put on such an event. And I'll tell you, we are so fortunate to have like Nickelodeon Studios in Burbank. They are that playground you drive by on Olive. You don't know what goes on behind that. They had a huge 20 by 20 screen.
I hear it's a great facility there.
Oh, and it was. And Judy, I happen to know Judy quite well. I knew her mom and dad. And I said to her afterwards, I could see Reverend Stamper and Sue Stamper smiling. Judy put in 30 years.
Yeah, she had a lot of hats in the city, and now she's assistant city manager. And anytime we've needed something or anything, she's always been responsive, always been helpful. You know, she's not saying, "Oh, the damn press again." No, she does care, and she knows the city. She knows the city very well.
Well, she's been in charge of finance. She was the city clerk,
charge of park and rec.
You know, park and rec director. I mean, she has a lot of experience, and probably a very, very human, sweet person. So to see her honored, our police chief was there. He's the president of FSA. Our fire chief was there. Every city department head was there. What I really loved to see, I stood back in the back and I looked around the room. I love community when community gets together. We had people from St. Joe's there. We had people from the school district there. We had people from Water and Power, from all the city departments, all to honor Judy. So it was, a really, really fantastic event. And I want to give a shout out, or maybe I did that later on.
Yeah, later on the next
okay, that's part of my. I also want to applaud Terry Walker. He was the MC for the night, and he did a great job. They have a musician, an MC guy doing our DJ, kept the tunes rolling. It was just perfect weather, mid 80s out there. It was gorgeous out in their yard. So great place to do it.
That's the thing. We get 100 degrees in the daytime. You get nice 80 degrees in the evenings.
Well, kudos to Nickelodeon, Carson Smith, who is their vice president of community affairs, and Vicki Fenton. And they thanked their crew, and I mean, it was just done very professionally and right.
Absolutely. Well, with that, that was the week that was.
The week that was.
And now we're going to have ourselves a little bit of a commercial break, and we will be back with you in about 30 seconds.
How would you like your business advertised in this very spot? My Burbank Talks is looking for local businesses interested in a 30-second spot to appear in our podcasts. If you're interested, please email advertising@myburbank.com, and we'll be glad to discuss all of the exciting possibilities with you. Now, back to our podcast.
Okay, Craig Sherwood back with you along with Ross Benson. And, of course, Craig Durling is on assignment this week. What did we send him out? Antarctica or somewhere? Or
I don't know if he took
or the Alps, or I'm not sure. We sent him somewhere for something. Who knows?
I know Antarctica is on. No, Antarctica is on his list of bucket items to hit to.
Probably is. I heard today that there are no snakes in Antarctica. Hard to believe, right? In the frozen tundra.
Well,
Green Bay, the frozen tundra, Green Bay.
Having Craig Durling gone, we were roommates. We've been very close friends for years. He is a nature photographer, and his stuff is online. And I'll let him, talk about it some one of these podcasts. But if you see his work, I mean, zebras within 10 feet, or lions, and out. He went to an African safari, and he had
Yeah, to shoot pictures, not to shoot animals.
Oh yeah, he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
but his photography is fantastic. So where he's off on mission or assignment, I'm not sure.
Well, today was Monday, October 9th, and it was what we used to know as kids as Columbus Day, but now has been rebranded to Indigenous Day. Of course, as Ross told me earlier, which I was very surprised, that in Canada, it's actually called Thanksgiving Day. So
I had to look on my calendar. Even now,
you've got your daughter-in-law's from Canada, isn't that
my
correct?
daughter-in-law, and I did not call her and wish her a happy Thanksgiving.
Well,
I hope she'll, let me go on that one.
now, of course, it's a federal holiday today. That means your banks and your post office is closed. But how many people realize that it's a federal holiday and what was closed and what was open today and everything else?
School were in function.
Yeah. So it's not a state holiday. It's not a city holiday.
Walmart was open.
A federal holiday. So
Zodi's was open.
It's no longer Columbus Day.
Akron was open.
Columbus sailed the blue in 1492, but guess what? He never did land in the United States. So anyhow, moving on to tomorrow, Tuesday, the city council is dark. It's dark.
Dark again?
Yeah, no, they don't even have a meeting because we only have 2 meetings a month to last till 1 in the morning.
No, isn't that because today was Thanksgiving? They have to wear off their food?
No, that's in next month.
Okay.
So Wednesday, October 11th, is the State of the City address, and Vice Mayor Nick Schultz is going to step in.
Let me hit the brakes. I think you forgot the line above that. I can't hit brakes. Do we got a brake sound or anything?
Oh,
we have sirens. We have toilet flushing.
Oh! In fact, you know what? This was. Did we talk? We didn't talk about this, did we?
No, you were. We did mention. You said it's later on. In the show. I'm glad we go over.
We actually, you know what? We actually put this on the wrong Tuesday. So
I'm glad we went over our show. Where's Durling when we need him?
Yes. While there was no council meeting on Tuesday, there was one the last Tuesday we talked about, and somehow we put it on the wrong Tuesday. But something happened at the end of that meeting, which bothered me, and that was Councilmember Tama Takahashi requested that the public comment was basically taking up too much time. How do you fix that? How do
you know? We talked about it at the end of last Tuesday's week.
We did. So what are we missing then that you're talking about?
I'm so lost. We did talk about it.
We talked about it tonight, didn't we?
We did talk about it.
Okay, I brought that up, and you told me I said I didn't bring it up.
I'm glad we write it down on our show notes.
I'm glad you. It shows how much you actually listen to what I'm saying.
Darlene, where are you when we need you?
Rewind the podcast and listen to everything I said about her in the public comment and everything else. Rewind that part.
Oops.
Okay, so let me move on where I was moving on before because I thought I did talk about that. So Wednesday, October 11th, is State of the City at the Marriott, and Vice Mayor Nick Schultz is going to step in and take care of the presentation for Mayor Constantine Anthony. It's the Burbank Chamber of Commerce sponsors this every year, and I believe it's once again a sold-out event.
I got a call today from Jamie.
People.
Over 650 people are planned to be there. Kickoff at 11. You'll be out of there by 1 o'clock. It's not just fried chicken and
it's not a BYOB event.
Definitely not, but it's the show to be to. Our public information office,
Jonathan Jones, every year comes up with a phenomenal presentation.
Him and his crew and his video crew have put out a great show, and
there's no really basic news there. There's nothing you didn't know before, but it's a way for everybody to get together and kind of celebrate the year that in the city and what went on.
But if you really want to know
what plans are coming up and developments, things like that.
They give a report on the economic thermometer in Burbank. You know, we've gone through the strikes, and they're going to talk about, guarantee a bit about that.
Right.
But if you've driven around town, out at the Hollywood Way in San Fernando, there's a brand new hotel. Most people don't see it because they don't go out that way. Drive over the Magnolia Overpass. You got the new apartments and condos on one side. You got Front Street project moving along like bolsters. You drive down Hollywood Way and Where's the ranch? There's no more ranch.
Warner Brothers Ranch. It's actually not even the Warner Brothers Ranch anymore. It's now the, I don't know, is it
Jeff Worth.
the Jeff Worth facility? I
Yeah.
don't know if he's named it. Is it Jeff Worth Ranch?
Well, I'm going to find out because usually he goes to the state of the city. But I noticed today coming down to the studio, they've wrapped that whole place with construction.
And all the buildings are gone. The old Screen Gems building that was on Oak, gone. You know, I mean,
They're moving along rather quickly. I know he wants that all to be built within 2 years and done for 16 new stages. So if you want to know what's going on in the city, we'll have a reporter covering the state of the city and doing an after story. But if you want to know, this is where we get a lot of our information of what's happening.
Absolutely. Later that day, if you're still sober for the festivities at the State of the City, the Board of Library Trustees is going to meet at 5:30 at the Central Library. That's mostly updates on their agenda. Moving on to Thursday, the Burbank Culture Arts Commission meets at 9 a.m. at the Community Services Building. Once again, mostly updates are on the agenda. And the Park and Recreation Board will meet at 6 p.m. at City Hall. There will be updates and a report of the Starlight Bowl for the 2023 season. And we're going to get into that later. That's not tonight's podcast, but we're going to talk about the Starlight Bowl probably next week on our podcast. I want to watch how the meeting comes out. I think the Starlight Bowl is a mismanaged, even though, yes, it makes money. It turns a profit. I think it's just a mismanaged facility, and it's not living up to its potential. And the city's let it run down in many ways. So I want to see what the Park and Rec Board says. If they say anything, they're going to see the report. Say, "Oh, we made money this year. Great, thank you very much." But I as a citizen of Burbank, I love the facility. I'm not proud of what it is now, or what the shows are.
Well, I know they have a lot of limitations.
It's all garage bands. The city does not hire one real act. It's all garage. It's all tribute bands. You can go to Whiskey Flats. Oh wait, they're gone now. You can go to
Whiskey A Go-Go?
Whiskey A Go-Go.
What was the place on San? Whiskey Bend.
That's what I said. Whiskey Bend.
No, you said Whiskey A Go-Go or something.
No, you said Go-Go. Whiskey Bend, but you can go to all these nightclubs. You can see these tribute bands in these places. I mean, a facility like that should not be having tribute. There are so many 80s and 90s real people out there who play small venue places that you could bring in here. And yeah, you might pay a little more, and the tickets might cost a little more, but it's going to be quality entertainment.
Well,
also.
I know of a gentleman here in town, Dominic, and I would love to have him on here one of these days, who has proposed real bands in there. They do out there in Indio. He's with that company that puts that on, and he can get top bands.
Is he a Burbank person?
Yes, he is.
Well, let's do a podcast with him.
And you know what? For him to work with our Parks and Rec department, he's had some challenges. And
well, what else is new? That's a long line.
We talk every so on. I would love to, because he has a nonprofit that they've built that they want to take over and run that facility and make money on it. And he's just running into brick walls.
Do you know more people showed up to see Motley Yacht or Yachtly Crew or whatever they call themselves than the fireworks show on the 4th? Evidently, they didn't even sell the fireworks show on the 4th out. And that was their big show every year, the big money maker, and they actually charged a lot more money for that one. But
like we said, we'll talk on.
We're going to talk about this later.
Starlight Ample.
I hope the Park and Rec Board doesn't just rubber stamp things on this. But I got a feeling that they probably will. Well, Friday, we're going to take the day off. Friday. It's Friday the 13th.
It's your favorite day.
That's it. It used to be. Friday the 13th. It's just now it's just a nightmare. Moves to the weekend, and on the weekend, Gain Credit Union, the good folks at Gain, are holding a flea market and pumpkin patch from 11 to 4.
I went out and bought some mosquito spray, and they're having a flea market. Oh, totally different.
Oh no. Dodger, flea. No, he doesn't have flea. He takes a flea pill.
Well, they last year they put on this pumpkin. They have that extra parking lot at Parish
Right.
Across. And they have, I think, 25 vendors coming out this year. They're going to be, you can buy a pumpkin and the money will go to local scouts. Last year there was food there, tons of stuff to buy. It's
Yeah.
from like 10 to 4,
11 to 4.
11 to 4. I know I'll be out there souping.
You'll be,
Oh,
you'll be
tooth
out there
fell
souping
out.
it?
I'll be out there shooting some pictures. And I know I got a note from Gain looking for, they hope to see a lot of people come out Saturday.
Great community event. So go out there. Remember what that used to be before Gain built there?
Ooh, that block?
Yeah, wasn't that the block where they had the fire about?
No, where the Gain Credit Union.
Yeah.
That's 1800.
Remember
That's right,
they had a fire about 20 years ago, right?
Right.
Or was that an orchard?
No.
I was there at that building.
It was where the credit union
is now. There
Right.
was another building there
But the
before.
parking lot, they own that lot too. And they had a
Right.
couple of fires. There were little.
No, I'm telling you, there was a big fire that it burned the whole place, and they had a pool
Right.
in the
Adolf.
Adolf. There you
Adolf
go.
fire.
The Adolf
Oh,
fire.
well, because I shot a lot. I
Oh,
remember.
I was there too. Yeah, that's got to be 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I remember I was way out of town. I very seldom leave Burbank. And when I heard that call and when I heard Al Simmons, one of the captains said, give me a second alarm as soon as he got there. He said, I have a 1 city block on fire. And I got there mighty quick from being out of town. And then I found out my tripod didn't work. And I had to balance my camera on the side on an outrigger of a fire truck.
That's back in the days when they didn't have quick lenses and you had to use film. So every
That's
shot had to count, and you wouldn't see the shot till you got home and souped the film.
Right.
Okay. Well, that brings us to our last thing of the night, which of course is always Ross's rant, or sometimes it's Ross's shout out. So let's see what it is tonight. What do you got for us, Ross?
Well, I do drive around town a lot and I see a lot of things, but I'll tell you, Saturday I was impressed by our community. We had talked a little about FSA's Gala at Nickelodeon. I'll tell you, besides Nickelodeon standing up and having just putting on a heck of a good party, and everybody, I've known Judy for 30 years of working for the city of Burbank. I photographed her wedding, so I know Judy quite well. I remember her mom, Sue Stamper, quite well, and her dad, Reverend Larry, Pastor Larry Stamper,
Former mayor of Burbank.
former mayor. He, Judy went to Burbank High. She's a Burbank kid, and she has literally put her life into Burbank. And what they did the other night to honor her was very, very well rewarding and deserving. But FSA puts on this gala to offset funds so they can put counselors at every school. They have a counselor at every Burbank school. Our 2 high schools have crisis centers and mental health centers that kids can talk to. And the money that they raise pays for all that. And to just close this up, there's a company in Burbank, Command Performance, owned by Lewis. Lewis donates all the food, all the catering at every FSA event. He feeds the families that are in FSA homes during Thanksgiving and Christmas. They had prime rib the other day. They had pasta. They had salads. They had desserts. They had everything. And Lewis doesn't charge them a penny. That's Burbank.
That's Burbank.
So my hats are off to FSA and to Lewis. And if you want to know Command Performance, they do catering for the public. I've called them on a couple of events. He'll be glad to, do work for you here in town. They're on Burbank Boulevard. If you need to call them,
Support a local Burbank business. We're always for that.
yeah. And this turns around and comes right back to, when it comes to Christmas, and he makes 100 turkeys and takes them to, some of Burbank's people. There you go. See those turkeys waiting to be carved up. So again, my hat's off to FSA, Lori, Chris, the whole team, and even one of the people I used to talk to was working the bar. It was just a great event. So Again, kudos to everybody over there. And, that kind of wrapped up a busy week. And now I'm looking at this one.
Yeah, you know what? I've also got a shout out, which we didn't put on the script, and I just remembered about it. Something I was very impressed with the other day. We went to police and fire headquarters. We had a meeting with the police chief, and we're talking about media access to encryption and all that. It was a good meeting. We appreciate the chief's time. But while we were waiting in the waiting room, I was watching, and an Officer Moreno. Ross, you know his first name by a chance? I don't put you on the spot, but do you happen to know his first name? You look it up for me. Officer Moreno, who you might remember is the same officer who rescued a horse and rode him out of danger and back to the residence where the horse was lost from. So he was on kind of the national media, in fact, all over the world with the horse, but going bareback down the street. But I'm in the police station, and Officer Moreno was there to advise a resident on a potential fraud case and gave the resident a lot of information. And when he was done, there was a homeless individual who didn't have all his wits about him, sitting there, and he went over to him and said, "Sir, can I help you?" And basically the conversation was, everybody's out to get me. Everybody, and we were there for waiting about 10 minutes. And for 10 minutes, he stood there and talked to this man, trying to see what can I do to help you? Who's after you? How can I help you? Everything he was saying was, and he wasn't doing this. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know I'm a media person. He had no idea who I am. And I'm watching this. I'm going, this is what happens behind the scenes sometimes. And this is what we need. First, we need more additional MET teams, mental evaluation teams, because our officers, police officer, you sign up to go fight crime and all that stuff. And you find out you're become a social worker more than anything else. And he spent now I do not know how this turned out, or the final thing was we got our meeting with the chief and had to leave. But he was there a solid 10 minutes, and I got to tell you what, I was very impressed with him. He didn't try to hurry the man up. He didn't try to get out of here. He was trying to do everything he could to help this individual who was very confused, probably around 60, 65 years old. And I just thought this is a story you don't see or you don't hear about unless you're out there and actually see it happen. So I really want to commend Officer Moreno, who I thought did a fantastic job. Did you find a name for me, Ross?
No, I didn't. I only have his last name. But when we went up to the chief's office, we kind of told the chief what you just witnessed, or you did.
Yeah.
And he told us about Officer Moreno. This is a new officer to Burbank, been on about a year, 2 years now. But I've gotten to talk to him in the field. This is the officer. This is why Burbank chooses the prime the best. This officer has a heart of gold. In his country, where the chief was saying he's a horse rider
from South America.
South America. His family still lives there. I remember shooting his picture at graduation from LA Sheriff's Academy, and his mom and dad were there, and the chief, when the chief started talking about horses and everything, that's chief's language. But this officer, if you saw him on the street, I've seen him doing his job out there. Burbank has some great officers.
Oh, absolutely. And this is one of our newer officers.
And then you also mentioned that you didn't know one of the other officers is out on the street working hard. Give me a name.
You mean my former player? Ricky Perez.
That's right.
I did not know Ricky Perez, who's a former player of mine, or when I was at Burbank High, who was on our league championship team, who was a 5-tool player, which, if you don't know what a 5-tool player is, it's more baseball talk than anything else. Natural athlete in probably multiple sports. And he is now a Burbank police officer. And I didn't know that. He's been in the department probably 2 years. Actually, the chief didn't know that he was an all-league outfielder for us, and then he actually went on to play shortstop in college. And the Chief didn't even know that. As a Chief is a tremendous baseball fan. I mean, he looks every day at box scores and everything else, and he's just not a casual fan. So,
I want to interject there. We had an issue come up that we found necessary to make an appointment with Chief. His Fridays, I know, are dedicated to returning phone calls, returning people's emails, and meeting with people like he did you and I.
And our meeting went over an hour.
And he is, Mike Albanese, we are just so fortunate to have him.
Entire command staff.
Yep.
I've said before, we are very lucky since Chief LaChasse took over and brought in a command staff, and we promoted Chief Albanese from captain. He was a
captain, deputy chief
to chief. I'm glad
came on as a captain, then moved. But we're real fortunate too. We have a real young police department now. A lot of these officers that are lateraling, coming into Burbank. But, I shot 3 new officers last month. I think I'm shooting 3 more this month.
We looked at that report that from the Civil Service Commission or whatever. And I guess every year every month they get about 100 applicants and about 15 possible lateral transfers. And I know one month we looked, 0 lateral transfers got approved for our department, which means lateral transfers, there are police officers sitting in another department and trying to come to Burbank, and we denied them all. And of that 110 or whatever it was applicants, I think there were 2 or 3 on the list to go to the academy. So, just because we need officers doesn't mean we're just going to take anybody out there. We're going to, the Chief is very demanding of the caliber person. Not just book learned, but the personality of the person and everything else. So, hats off to our department. Hats off to our officers. I know they have a tough job. I know I don't agree with them sometimes and some of the policies. Hey, so we're the media, and we've got to still be a watchdog. We want that transparency. And I think we get it too. The Chief tries to give it to us.
That he does. It was a good meeting, and like I say, we're real fortunate in the city of Burbank. Have the caliber officers we have working.
Well, I think that's it for another show. It's funny, we started this show on October 9th, and now we're going to finish the show on October 10th. So we've been here that long, I guess. We had to watch the Dodger playoff game. We had to watch that debacle tonight that went on. And so we're a little late starting tonight just because we're still in mourning of Dave Roberts managing. No, did I say that? I said that. Okay. Anyhow, that's it. We will talk to you next week. So, Ross?
For the week that was, the week that will be, we miss Mr. Durling. We hope he's back in the pilot seat soon. And we'll see you
next week. Goodbye.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of My Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, UME Credit Union, the Burbank Chamber of Commerce, Gain Credit Union, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, UCLA Health, Tequila's Cantina and Grill, UPS Store on 3rd Street, and Hill Street Cafe.